Good afternoon. I'm Christine Martins with Friends of Wausau Historic Landmarks, and today we welcome Blake Opal-Wahoske to our very first interview for our new series on what is historic preservation. Good afternoon, Blake. Thank you for meeting with us.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for being our very first. It's always the hardest. We have 10 questions. I'll go through one by one and give you lots of time to answer. Our first ones are more personal. How long have you been at Marathon County Historical Society, and what do you do at the society?
Yeah, so I am the new executive director here at the Marathon County Historical Society. I'm just finishing up my 9th month with the organization, but already feel right at home. Absolutely love the work that we do. We're all about preserving, collecting, and educating folks on Marathon County's history.
What does historic preservation mean to you?
To me personally, I've always had a deep appreciation for history because I really think that it's a gateway, but it's also a bridge between the past, what's happening now, to inform us as we go into the future. And I think that's the part of history that I find most valuable and that I personally connect to. I've lived in historic homes, so I think that's kind of the cool thing is those tangible evidence of people before us and how we're living in that environment today and how we're really stewards to preserve that for future generations to also enjoy.
Perfect, thank you. Piggybacking on that, how did you first become involved with historic preservation? Was it living in the older houses that brought you to it, or?
I think I've always had that deep appreciation for history. I mean, it goes all the way back to middle school when I put together a slideshow for one of my classes of buildings, what they were originally to what they were nowadays, and just a comparison side by side, kind of like then and now photography. But I think I really got my boots on the ground having some experience with your organization, the Friends of Wausau Historic Landmarks, when I was first with the Wausau River District and getting some experience.
Our next one is also somewhat personal. What's your favorite architectural style or historic building in Wausau or Marathon County, and why?
That is so hard. Oh my gosh. I have appreciation for all of it. I live in a Victorian home, so I definitely have an appreciation for the ornate nature of those houses. However, if you speak to my other half, my husband, he'll say mid-century modern. I love the clean lines, but also with that, Prairie School was kind of the predecessor to mid-century modern. So, as far as the clean lines and blending with nature. So it's kind of all over the board, but I will say my favorite building in the downtown would be City Hall. I just really love the story of that building, the evolution of it, and then that Art Deco elements throughout it.
That is a great building, much underappreciated.
Yes.
Now we'll move over to some ideas or questions about the Historical Society itself. What are the future plans of the Historical Society to promote historical preservation within the Wausau community and Marathon County?
Oh my gosh, that's
a big one.
There's so much we could talk about on that question. So we have some big things on the horizon. We have the Legacy Center, which we have announced that we're hoping to break ground on here in the near future, just a half block north, which will be an intentionally built archive and collection storage, so that way we can preserve the items we've had in our collections for the last 70 plus years that our organization's been around, but also make sure we have room for the next 50 years to collect that. I think one of the cool things about that project is, we're looking into stuff like film storage, how we should correctly preserve that and how it should be stored so future generations can view that, and also how we can digitize a lot of our archives so that way it's more accessible for folks to dig up those records, but then also make that more accessible to have that out on our website. So there's less barriers and people have ready access to all of our resources. Great.
Looking forward to that new building. How do you think your community can become more involved in preservation?
Yeah, so there's many different ways you can get involved. I always plug becoming a member here at the Historical Society, so that way you do get all of that information as far as our offerings and how you can become more involved in our organization. But that doesn't necessarily, you don't need to be involved with us. I think just taking time educating yourself and taking time to really explore some of those topics that are personal interest to you. And then of course, always know that we're available here at the Historical Society to provide you with more resources and more access to your local history.
Piggybacking on that, how can people research the history of their home?
Of course, so that's actually a topic myself that I'm becoming educated on. So of course we have our expert staff here that you can always rely on. We do suggest that you call and make an appointment so that way they can be prepared and pull some information ahead of time for you. But you're more than welcome to come here to the Historical Society. If your house is within Marathon County, we definitely have that information, or can connect you with the resources for that information. Wisconsin Historical Society also has their online directory. That's really great place as far as an initial jumping off point, just to get that kind of a macro view of some of the history of your house. And then you can connect with us and we'll kind of give you more of a micro view, if you will, of more of those details.
How can people become involved with historic preservation of their home once they have researched their history?
Well, when it comes to preservation, especially on these historic homes, it's always kind of prioritizing some of those projects that need to be taken care of right away. Otherwise, they face deterioration or possible loss. But with that, that's actually something that we're working on internally here, is coming up with a guide for residents in Marathon County as far as who to contact, who's been vetted as far as contractors in the area that specialize in historic restorations. So we can definitely help folks as far as making those connections and some references as well.
Will this be something that will be online?
Yep, this will be an online resources, and then we also plan to have that as a printed copy available here in the Society as well.
Perfect, we look forward to seeing that. In general, how can people support historic preservation efforts within Marathon County and Wausau? Just overall historic preservation.
Yeah, overall. So overall, advocacy is always a huge thing when it comes to historic preservation. So, if you do see a historic structure that is endangered, making sure to notify the right individuals about that, so that way that can be put on people's priority list or first in their line of sight, if you will. So advocacy is always a huge thing. Monetary donations, every little penny helps. I mean, it really does help us amplify those voices. And then of course, just getting involved, volunteering, whether it be through your organization, one of the smaller municipalities or villages that have a historical society, or our county historical society here.
And the 10th one is a big one. What events does Marathon County Historical Society have planned for 2025 that people can check out?
Definitely, so that is a big question. We just finalized our event lineup for this year, which we do have those all available on our website for viewing. We have our standards, our kind of monthly ones, if you will, with Vintage Board Game Night. We always have that one going. We're returning with the History Speaks series, where we bring in professionals that present on a specific topic. Of course, we are partnering with other organizations as well. So going to different community events, such as Harvest Fest. We will do some sort of resource sharing with Wings Over Wausau, as far as our aviation history. So there's so many events coming up here, and more to come, as we're gonna have some signature pop-up events. So I'm just gonna plant that little seed, and more to come.
Great, well, that is exciting. Well, thank you so much for taking time to speak to us. And again, thank you for being our first, much appreciated. And if people have more questions about Marathon County Historical Society, they can be found online. And always a phone call is always available.
Exactly, we're always available. So yeah, marathoncountyhistory.org, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, we're all there.
Thank you, Blake, for being our very first in our new series on historic preservation. We much appreciate it.